flip, shovelware, manifesto.
Early software was individualistic. The art of programming from the garage or bedroom and distributing your personal work via floppy disks was a common pastime. Magazines featured typing programs and were dedicated to sharing code that people could follow along with to build a game, using the code as the blueprint. When computers moved away from being something exclusive to large mainframes in basements of institutions and transformed into the personal computing era, this early focus on individualism, customization, and personal use are philosophies that set the groundwork for what we enjoy today. Even so, as threatened as that precarious creative independence in digital art always is, there's still echoes of that personal empowerment obvious in independent software development. I like thinking back to these early days when things seemed so much more low stakes, simpler, and even welcoming. You didn't need a lot to make something on a computer. No licenses, no heavy payment towards storefronts, no signing her up with a complicated and expensive process, no paying for certificates to sign with, no reoccurring creative cloud fees, you just needed your computer. Distribution was simple too. If you wanted to share what you made, you could post it online or share it on something small and physical. What you shared would run on someone's machine, without them having to jump through hoops to run it, because a modern system might flag your freeware as a security risk, because your program didn't come from an arbitrarily expensive storefront. When the internet gained popularity, games and software were distributed as downloads. That's where my early fascination with homebrew software grew from. I would spend hours collecting silly strange digital artifacts that programmers made and shared. I still have some of them. They still run. I'm never letting them go.
Some years ago I started creating a silly drawing and template tool called the Electric Zine Maker for quickly assembling zines in small self-published literature. The Electric Zine Maker was meant to be a very simple black and white drawing tool that would output to the popular 8-page folded zine format, just for me and my friends. I couldn't imagine that an art tool, one that's so silly, chaotic, loud, colorful, where you even need to fight against it to make art because it's so anti-productivity, would ever take off. It did. The Electric Zine Maker grew into supporting many more bizarre and goofy tools, as well as a large variety of zine templates that you can output to. I often think about the comments that it reminds people of kid pics. People compare it fondly to software from the 90s or early 2000s. Software that was much more individualistic, that even allowed itself to be silly, weird, unusual, instead of the corporate template of what software is that we have today. I think it's worth saying that even Microsoft, at one point, had creative weird software, such as the Creative Writer Suite, released by Microsoft Kids. The Electric Zine Maker features a little potato assistant because it's part of my Potatoware suite of software. Potatoware is a creative tangent I fell into where each program I make features a potato and is a parody of popular software, but made to be useless. For example, There's the electric file monitor, which is a desktop virus scanner that will randomly accuse innocent files on your computer of being viruses, and put them into the virus prison, where you can manage your virus inmates, and make a fictional currency from the prison complex that you are now running on your machine. There is an electric love potato desktop assistant, which is just a giant potato that lives on your screen and randomly sings to you, as well as generating random potato recipes. This tangent about potato were aside.
The electric sign maker set me on a journey of discovering an entire world of other software developers out there making equally as silly, weird, wild, or different individualistic tools. Present-day independent software is very creative. There's so much, but you hear very little about it. Larger tech companies, and the general Silicon Valley tech bro mentality, seem to suck the air out of the room. It's unfortunate that this mainstream determines so much popular perception of what software is when you have entire subcultures offering alternative views of what a program or a game is. Software is personal. It can be a unique relic from a time long ago, like the programs we work so hard to preserve and maintain a memory of, or it can be a current work of personal idealistic expression that goes against the grain of what larger tech monopolies have established as standards. My journey with the electric sign maker taught me that software is art just as much as games are art. When people look back at things like KitPix, Kai's Power Goo, or any of these silly creative programs, it's more than just nostalgia. It's about a completely different paradigm to how software could have been. These old programs let us dream, what if? Behind the bold individualism is the obvious question: who shapes our standards? Who tells our story and whose story is remembered as the standard? An individual's exploration of personal expression in the digital realm is at the heart of computers. Creative independence is at its core. Without everyone, this place would be boring, yet I'm fascinated by how much the individual is distilled into just numbers, engagement, or a source of content creation output for centralized platforms. In the present era, where tech monoliths are chasing the AI dream, despite outrage from their user bases, I think it's an interesting time to look at what individualism even means. In today's internet, we are food for machines, digesting our thoughts, art, and behavior to spit back versions of ourselves as content, used in training models, or for advertisers. Participation on social media becomes a type of free content creation that is monetized by the platform holder. I remember early discussions where people argued that they should receive royalties from social media for creating content for them. Most social media platforms reserve the right to license anything a user posts on the site royalty-free. In the end, we are lost in the indefinite churn of the content machine. Today's internet is an abstract concept, controlled by large platforms, where it's not clear if and how individualism even has a place. Even GeoCities and MySpace let their users customize their pages. Today's social media does not offer this. I think it's a fascinating transition from people first to the brand of the owning entity being first. Early websites were just as individualistic as early software. There was a novelty to picking your very own domain name and hosting whatever you wanted on it. People had websites for their pets, joke websites, special interest websites. Websites became a form of artistic expression. It was also new and liberating. You could find your voice and exist on your own terms. You needed no one to do that. Just your own technical resolve. Each website was a unique portal into someone's world. It was common. Places like GeoCities consolidated a lot of that into one place because they made the technical hurdle easier, but, in a way, As much as we like to sing praise to GeoCities, that consolidation is also a continued core problem when it comes to trusting larger entities that become a portal to some aspect of our online existence. A budding online startup will convince us to join their platform, create a dependency on them, and either get bought by a larger company and eventually shut down, or exploit their user base. Exploitation seems inevitable under the shadow of profit growth over all else. Recent scandals surrounding Adobe's use of AI and controversial changes to their terms of service are good examples. Pieces of internet history have been lost because of some decision arbitrarily made by people in the boardroom, or changes to a terms of service. This is the same for any technology. Flash, for example. Digital art is a snake eating its own tail. When personal power is handed to a larger entity for the sake of convenience, we've time and time again lost historic parts of internet spaces, work, art, communities when that larger entity either shuts down, sells, or betrays the community relying on it. What we lost is dismembered and reconstituted for the next rendition of tech capital. I remember when businesses were just starting to take the internet serious. Then the dot-com bubble burst, but that didn't stop this shift. I distinctly remember the feeling that business was taking over the internet, molding it to its own capitalist vision, use cases, preferences, changing how everyone else used it. It seems like it never stopped. Today's internet is an abstract concept for monopolies to exploit. The current AI gold rush is a perfect manifestation of mass consumerism. In this internet, nothing matters anymore. No reality. No accuracy of information. Not really art, but something else. It's all food to digest and regurgitate back to an abstract concept of consumers. It is the crowning jewel of what technocapitalism is all about. Mass consumerism has consumed all meaning here. In many ways, AI critics still maintain a level of culpability because most criticism of AI does not criticize the consumerist system that this technology finds itself in. If it would not be AI, it would be something else, because in this sense, technology has no more relevance beyond increasing profit to shareholders. The groundwork has long been laid where we exist online, according to the terms of another entity that is allowing us to exist on their platform. We create content and value for them, which the entity has a right to exploit. We've been reduced to scrapable information a long time ago. BonziBuddy was once criticized for being malware. Today's versions of Microsoft Windows far eclipse what malware of yesterday was. Consider controversies surrounding Microsoft Recall, an AI feature that screenshots everything. Are we frogs in the hot boiling water of this new digital age? Like GeoCities or MySpace, fondly remembered, not for their own controversies, most of these places built their platform on offering convenient access to a level of personal expression and community that is naturally part of the internet and computers. People don't need them to have a website or stay connected to friends, but we've ended up with a dependency on these centralized spaces nonetheless.
I grew up learning how to host and maintain my own websites. It's by no means a difficult thing to do. I always thought it's a basic life skill you need to know in order to maintain your creative independence. Many after my generation of nerds have no idea that this is a thing you can do, or where to even start. Contrast this to the nerds before my time, that had their legendary beginning inventing software, or building beautiful computers in garages, like the humble beginnings of Apple. This current new generation no longer has access to this type of entry level. The current generation needs trust fund money, seed money, angel investors, just to cover the basic costs of building and distributing software the proper established way. The bar is raised unreasonably high to have that type of old-school independence. The irony is that the bar for entry was raised by the very people who benefited from it being so low.
I often bemoan how hard it is to sign your own independently built and distributed software without it being flagged as a virus. There's reoccurring fees that often eclipse what I can financially afford. Is fun experimental freeware becoming a thing of the past? Developers interested in distributing their art are expected to have their work funneled through very difficult to exist on digital storefronts that require annual fees. Apple's App Store is the best example of this. After which developers must navigate the heavy-handed control of these monopolies that dictate what type of work is or isn't allowed on these storefronts. Guidelines often exclude experimental work. It is hard to go against that grain. So, in light of all this, I often wonder, when convenience becomes a hook for consolidation, who really benefits? Loss of tech literacy is a scary reality to consider, especially when you grew up making your own websites, software, games, digital art, and you see younger people not know what a file system is because they grew up with walled gardens, apps, and the cloud. Who benefits from that ignorance, and how do we push back against that? How do we maintain tech literacy so that the next generation remembers that creating software is for them too? How do we make sure creating on computer stays accessible to everyone? Will it? We are more than just consumers. We are participants too. Early software was individualistic.